I'm Jim Check with Iain Burns out there in the nation's capital. I'm here in Kelowna in the central Okanagan, and traffic is moving nicely here on December 10th here as we approach the shortest day of the year. It's still dark out here this morning at 9:03. We're a couple minutes late. And we got a really big show as usual. Liberals refuse to be clear about pipeline. Gamification of politics being led by Liberals. Liberals tout the economy by cherry-picking stats. More and more Canadians worrying about putting food on the table. Liberals look to raise debt ceiling to $2.5 trillion. Bank of Canada continues pause while the market in the United States bets on a cut today from Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Liberal deputy admits to lying. Liberals now come clean on crack pipes. Liberals conceal settlement on anti-Semite consultant. Well, lots of lying going on here. Yukon says hands off our guns. Military has no clue. Well, those are some pretty good headlines. Canada makes deal with EU on digital partnership, and I would say, uh-oh. EB feeling the heat for his decisions. Zelensky says he's ready for elections. Trump policy is seeing fruit for the people. Trump calls EU leaders weak and stupid. And ceasefire dies with Cambodia and Thailand. He's going to have to take one of those off his list. And Elon talks God and a lot more. And we got a lot more than that too. But I mean, those are just some of the highlights on today's show. The really big show. If you like what we do, like, subscribe, share, comment. This is the best undiscovered news commentary show in Canada on the interwebs, or as the George W. Bush used to say, the internets. Isn't that what he said? The internets?
While his opponent, Al Gore, claimed to have invented it. So there you go.
Hey, why not? Al Gore's invented a lot of things. Anyway. The big news for sure. The Liberals, Pierre Poilievre putting out this, voted against their own deal, blocking a pipeline to the Pacific and keeping Canadian energy landlocked. I mean, that was his try out there to kind of get the Liberals to see if he could cause some dissension. And there's obviously dissension in the Liberal ranks. We already had one leave their caucus, Stephen Guilbeault. I mean, it's pretty obvious, and he was trying to sow some more discontent there. And when that pipeline vote failed, 196 to 139. So that was every party, the NDP and the Greens, no doubt, voted against it, as did all the Liberals. And the only people voting for it were the Conservatives. And Liberals called the motion a ploy to embarrass Prime Minister Mark Carney. Canada needs a pipeline to the Pacific to sell $30 billion of our energy overseas outside of the U.S. market. That's from opposition leader Pierre Poilievre. He sponsored the motion asking the MPs support the construction of one or more pipelines enabling the export of at least 1 million barrels a day of low-emission Alberta bitumen from a strategic deepwater port in BC. But the Prime Minister joined Liberal Bloc, New Democrats, and the Green MPs in opposing the motion. One cabinet member called it a train wreck. It is a train wreck and cannot pass this parliament. And that was from Government House Leader Steve McKinnon. Liberal MP Corey Hogan, the Calgary Confederation Parliamentary Secretary for Natural Resources, said last night's vote was politically risky. It was designed to be a trap. Well, of course it was, right? Of course it was. But the real question is, and I think what Pierre, missed there was, Canadians deserve an answer on this. Will the Liberals actually support a pipeline? This was an election issue. And the majority of Canadians, we've seen poll after poll after poll, say they want a pipeline. And this is with a chance for the Liberals to give clarity to Canadians to say, yes, we want a pipeline. But I mean, the NDP and the Greens are obviously say they don't want a pipeline. The Bloc obviously doesn't want a pipeline. So do the Liberals want a pipeline?
Well, the only people that matter in the Liberal Party are Mark Carney and a few of his associates, and they've said on camera numerous times that they are in favour. So I mean, that's basically what matters, isn't it? The problem is that this is all so vague, isn't it? And that this is the issue with how slow things move. There isn't actually a pipeline plan there that they can. There's no like meat that they can put in a bun and put into the House of Commons and actually talk about. It's all kind of chit chat, isn't it, at the minute? And it's ideas.
Well, I mean,
So
we're 9 months in. What are we, 9 months from the election? 9 months and no clarity
is it
on a
9 months?
pipeline.
Yeah. Yeah.
9 months and no clarity on whether or not Canada going to pipeline. No movement towards it. No nothing. We still have David Eby out there, like vehemently pushing against it. Yeah, Vasi Kapala interviewed him. I don't know if I have it in here or not. Pushing against it, saying that Alberta is just greedy and already has a pipeline. And then she nailed him with a question by saying, "Well, you already have an LNG pipeline. Why do you need another one?" And this smirk he had on his face, you could tell that didn't sit well with him. But yeah, obviously the BC NDP not into it, and the NDP in general not into it. So can Canada get its number one export to an outside market outside of the United States? Here, this is the problem. They complain that we're too reliant on the U.S. What's the number one thing from the Liberals and the NDP? The Americans are the bad people. Is that not true? America is the enemy. We need to get outside markets. Here's Daniel Smith trying to get our number one export to an outside market, and the answer is no. And it's likely going to end up going south. And America says they'll take it.
Yeah. Well, and there's just they're reaching now, aren't they? Any excuse they can find. The Bloc have the most irrational position on this. So it's they're talking about how it's all just some kind of conspiracy to increase the revenues of oil companies. Sort of like really sad, like 1990s level of political argument against against like the man and stuff. Just again, just like kind of playing. No attempt to be serious from the Bloc. And the NDP, I mean, they aren't even close to serious, are they, right now? And I think they would kind of half admit that themselves. They're just a mess. They don't know what direction they're going to take. But I would be very surprised if they ever supported pipelines, which is why, quite rightly, it's been observed they are no longer the party of the working man because they don't care about the working man.
Yeah, I mean, the poll after poll after poll shows Canadians want a pipeline. The Liberals and the NDP have made it clear that America is the enemy, according to them, that we need to reduce our reliance on the Americans. Every Mark Carney speech talks about it's a new world. We have to reduce our reliance on the Americans. Here's the chance to reduce our reliance. And we don't have an answer. 9 months in, we have no clarity, we have no movement, we have no shovels, we have nothing. We have nothing other than a lot of people pushing against it. Look at who's pushing forward. There's one party that has no power, the Conservatives, pushing for this pipeline, and Daniel Smith. Who else?
Mark Carney, you could say.
Is he though? I mean, is he really? I don't know.
I mean, if like Elizabeth May, you believe what he says, then yes. Although Elizabeth May might have changed her mind on that.
I was going to play this clip of Pierre, but I mean, it's just the song and dance, and he was just basically saying in this clip here that here's your chance to support a pipeline. I mean, it was obviously a game, but like the CBC headlines on it were making it like that it was all just Pierre's fault and just a game, but there was no headline there that said Canadians are supporting a pipeline and that they deserve an answer and some clarity and a timeline. Because I mean, these pipelines take a while to build too. It's not like they finally vote yes and we're going to build a pipeline. These take years. And we're losing deal after deal after deal, right? Now Spain wants LNG. And who's going to get that deal?
But I mean,
donuts, it's going to be the Americans.
As we already discussed, that's dead, isn't it? That's completely. There's no point of even talking about that because it would need Quebec's approval, and they're not going to do that because Quebec doesn't care about Canada, really, does it? It cares about Quebec, and they don't like industry very much, do they? But it is so, you mentioned the Americans. It's so interesting. I'm reading this book by a Canadian professor, actually, Václav Smil. People might have heard of him. But I'm reading a book that he wrote. I think it was published in 2015 or something like that. 2014, I think it was 2015. Yeah. And in there, he talks about LNG a little bit, and he says, he's like, interestingly, one development is that the Americans have started to get involved in gas production and liquefied natural gas. And usually the Canadians have supplied the Americans, but we'll wait and see what happens in the future. Maybe the Americans will grow into that industry. Here we are 10 years later. They completely dominate
And they
LNG.
dominate the industry.
Exactly.
They
Because
dominate the
they
industry.
made that choice, and Canada made a very different choice.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's right. What you say is ultimately right. The Americans, because they don't mess around like the Canadians do, the Americans will just do it, and they will continue as a consequence to be 50% or so richer than us on average, and they'll continue to lead the world. They'll continue to be the world's most important country, and we'll continue to be underneath their boot, whether we like it or not.
Maybe we can petition to change the Canadian maple leaf off the flag to a symbol of two hands, hand wringing, and because that's what we seem to do a lot of. F-35 still hand wringing. Pipeline. We'll have to change the government likely before we ever see, and that could be 10 years. It could be, who knows how long it's going to take before we see a pipeline. The Trudeau Liberals, when Carney was the economic advisor, said there's no business case for LNG. 3 deals worth over $1 trillion have already been signed by the Americans on LNG. They're taking over that market. Spain now asking for LNG. We are one of the most resource-rich nations in the world. And I would imagine we lead the world in suppressing our natural wealth and driving our population into poverty. And we're going to see a little bit of that later here. Like many Canadians can't even put food on the table.
But you talk about the flag, how it should be instead of the maple leaf should be hand wringing. I think maybe instead of the maple leaf, it should be the maple leaf trying to go up some stairs while a fleur de lis stands there and says, "You're not going anywhere." That would make more sense to me. Sorry to be so callous to our Quebecois friends, but
we were going to play this next.
Can you really dispute what I've just said? I mean, that's basically it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's blocking everything.
Canada, as we know it, tries to do things, and Quebec, or a coalition led by Quebec, says no every time.
Rory just said he's shoveled 6 inches of snow, and if people could tell us where they're watching from, that'd be appreciated as well, just to see what kind of reach we're getting and where we're reaching. But no snow. There's a little bit of dusting here in Kelowna, a little bit on the top of the mountains, but no snow on the ground here. But if you could just tell us where you're watching from, that'd be great. We're going to play this next clip, but it's just a vote, and it's just nothing. But we're going to play this chaos clip here from the Liberals here, and you can tell when they start losing the argument, and that it's they just start yelling and acting all kind of like disheveled. Let's listen to this.
You're saying that the Conservatives are trying to divide you on this issue. Is it not your government that has divided your own caucus by bringing forward an MOU that clearly does not have the full support of your own party?
As a party, we are united in wanting to make sure that we continue to build Canada, that we build it well, that we take into account climate change in the work that we do, and that we respect Indigenous rights holders. Our party is united on that. And so I won't accept that as a premise for that question. We are united.
You don't think the MOU is dividing your own caucus? You don't think there's divisions over that?
No.
So people can have issues with particular pieces, but we are supportive of the entire MOU.
You are supportive, but there are many of your other caucus members who are not supportive.
The caucus is supportive of the entire MOU. People, yes.
Mr. Hogan, was this a whip vote? Would you have wanted to vote in favor of the pipeline? Was this a whip vote for your caucus?
That's good. The environment minister, I think in her head, she's like, all she heard was run away, run away, run away. Because she didn't even answer that question. She kind of like skirted it and then answered it differently.
She is, so we've got her, we've got the immigration minister, and we've got Melanie Joly, industry minister. They are all struggling. Every single day I see them, they don't speak every day, but every time I see them, they really struggle. They are like, I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? Surely this is not a particularly contentious thing I'm saying. they're not very good at this. They're struggling all the time, and you have to wonder why have they been put into these jobs if they're clearly not really up to them. The answer is that because they're from Quebec, if you're wondering, and because they're women.
Well, you talk about Quebec. Why don't we hear from the leader of the bloc here?
Poilievre has an opposition motion today. Yeah. I know you were always very clear with your wording. What do you think of Mr. Poilievre's pipeline motion, his amendment, and how will you vote today, please?
As I said a few minutes ago, no problem. Not only Canada and Quebec, but also Alberta, as well as the whole planet, has to progressively come out of a carbon economy that we know now. And I believe, in all friendship, maybe they will not receive it that way, that Alberta should start a transition toward a new economy. So there's no way on earth that we would vote for this motion, which was specifically designed in order to insert a wedge within the Liberal caucus.
No, the wedge was already there. The wedge is clearly there, and he lays out the position of of his party. They're never going to vote for a pipeline. So you can forget about the east. It's not going to cross into Quebec. So the only chance is west, and EB. He's going to do everything he can to block it west, and the bloc is going to block it from the east to the west, and then
just for a laugh. And also saying like Alberta needs to reorient their economy. It's
they're number one.
Like,
they're number one.
You're a separatist. You're a Quebec chauvinist. Why do you care what Alberta does? Like ultimately,
trillions of dollars of wealth beneath Alberta's feet, and they're supposed to just move on. The number one contributor to Canada's export GDP, and they're supposed to just move on. They gladly take Alberta tax dollars, don't they?
Well, he bought that very nice tartan tie and pink shirt with Alberta tax dollars, didn't he, when he drew his salary as an MP? So yes, I mean even this guy personally, but Quebec, yeah. But it almost seems like if you want to export oil, if Canada wants to export oil out of the St. Lawrence to the Atlantic, so to Europe basically, it almost seems like the best option for that would be an independent Quebec, and then go to like these international bodies that deal with waterway access and things like that. Like they go to the UN or something and say, we need access to the St. Lawrence, and like get some kind of adjudication, get some kind of judgment in Canada's favor. Then we can export it from, I don't know, Kingston or something like that. That's realistically the only possible way that it's going to happen, because Quebec, I don't. It's hard to understand why, but it is what it is. The people of Quebec are just dead set against this. They don't want natural resources to be developed, really, do they? I mean, unless you can't sort of hydro as natural resources, which I guess it is. But they don't want hydrocarbons. They don't want fossil fuels, even though that's the basis of Canadian wealth. That's where we are right now. That's a wall that you can't really knock that wall down. You can't do anything about it. It's just that there is a big, beautiful wall, and it's, at the border of Quebec and Ontario, and you cannot get through that.
Somebody said, why not go to Alaska? A likely scenario, what's going to happen, I'll just make my prediction, is that the Keystone XL pipeline or another pipeline will go south. And the Americans will take Canadian energy, LNG and oil, and then resell it to the Europeans at a profit, like they're already doing. They're reselling our energy at a profit. And that was the Polish ambassador that actually laughed at Canada for that reason. They're just like clowns. Like they're actually buying your energy. Western Canadian Select sells at a discount. They buy it and then resell it to the world at a discount. You can't even make this stuff
Somebody's saying, somebody's pointing out that the Environment Minister, Julie Debresin, is actually from Toronto. she's not from Toronto. She is from Quebec. She represents a riding that she was parachuted into in Toronto, but she is, a Quebecois. She's from Montreal, so that's what I meant by that. It's about ticking boxes. And I also made that comment about she only has a job and her struggling colleagues only have jobs, in part as well because they're women. I don't mean to say that, that is why they're not very competent. I mean, there are countless women that you could have put in there that would have done a superb job. It's nothing to do with that. But it's because of this absurd system that the Liberal Party has, where they have to have 50% of their cabinet ministers female. Obviously, in that scenario, because you've got a quota, the chances are quite high that you're going to put somebody in that position that isn't really qualified to do it. This is one example.
And how many of them have Quebec roots that are even in Ontario? Mark Carney touting Canada's economy. Let's listen in. It's hard to tell, what speech he's on, because sometimes he's talking about the enemy and how, we got to tighten our bootstraps. And here's the touting. Let's listen in.
In the past 3 months, the Canadian economy has created a total of 181,000 jobs. The national unemployment rate has fallen from 7.1% to 6.5%, and crucially, average wages for Canadians have grown faster than inflation every month of this year. That's encouraging, but the headwinds are strong, and we are just getting started.
Well, let's have a look under the hood at those numbers that he's touting there. September did see a huge jump, 106,000 in full-time jobs and a loss of 46,000 in part-time. And, you have to ask yourself, can you put up that next slide there? But a lot of that had to do with back to school, teachers going back to school. And they hired a lot more teachers. That had a lot to do with that September number. But then October and November, extremely weak. Losses in full-time jobs and gains are all in the part-time jobs. So that's the real gains. If you look at that over the 3 months, the gains are part-time jobs, and those are lower-paying jobs with no benefits. And that is not the sign of a healthy economy. And then we played yesterday the clip from on Bloomberg there, where they talked about the numbers don't even make sense, because when we added 85,000 jobs last month, we had a 1% drop in unemployment. And then this month, we had a 63,000 add to the jobs, or 54,000 in total, and we ended up with a 4-point drop in unemployment. So if you're doing math as just even a basic equation, you'd have to ask yourself, what's that? Right? Do you know what I mean? You have to say, because in October, 63,000, they net 63,000 jobs, well, mostly part-time, 63,000 jobs, and you have a 1-point drop in unemployment. And in a $54,000 net, 54,000 job net, and mostly part-time, you had a 4-point drop in unemployment. Huh?
Yeah. I would also, just to sort of pop Mark Carney's balloon there, I would also quote the Bank of Canada, which released its interest rate this morning. When they do that, they also have a few paragraphs where they review Canada's economy and the world economy. And they say here, Canada's economy grew by a surprisingly strong 2.6% in the third quarter. It didn't grow by 2.6%. Divide that by 4. That's what it really grew by. Yeah. Even as final domestic demand was flat. And it says, the increase in GDP largely reflected volatility in trade. So in other words, we're stagnant, basically, if you read between the lines. It's not exactly like a great sort of boisterous growing economy. It's to do with the volatility in trade caused by American tariffs. And then they also go on to say, job markets in trade-sensitive sectors remain weak and economy-wide hiring intentions continue to be subdued. This is bad. This is not good news. Just read the Bank of Canada. Whatever you think of the Bank of Canada, if you want a more honest idea of what's going on in the economy, read that. Don't listen to a partisan like Mark Carney. I mean, he's there bragging about 6.5% unemployment.
Yeah.
That's
a bad number.
Who brags about that?
It's a bad, but the numbers don't even work. The numbers don't make sense. And then this is a poll that was done by Angus Reid. Merry Christmas We did that. What is it, 2 days ago? We did that. The feds, the bureaucrats, budget time in Ottawa, or bonus time in Ottawa, 90 to 100% of them get their bonuses, and they get nice big fat bonuses on top of their nice big fat checks. We talked about that. They were, I think, and we don't get these numbers till later. $85,000 was the average bonus in the Canadian Infrastructure Bank. Nice big fat bonus on top of those big fat checks already. There was one lady that works for the CRA that wasn't even going to work on her $177,000 salary, and they denied her bonus, and then she fought for it, and they coughed it up anyway. Why not? Why not? But anyway, not so merry for a lot of Canadians. Canadians feeling the most financial pressure anticipate little relief next year. Majority of lower income households say it's difficult to put food on the table, and thus food costs are projected to go higher in Canada. The cost of living continues to dominate the minds of Canadians as we head into 2026, and that's according to a poll from the Angus Reid. The pollsters found 59% of respondents put cost of living at the top of their worries, followed by healthcare, housing, and the economy. Climate change wasn't there. Take a look at this. Where's climate change?
It is there, just around next to immigration there, but very far. People don't care, obviously,
But
very low.
look at the number, like cost of living, 59%. I mean, that is, and we've said this over and over and over again, kitchen table stuff. It's about the kitchen table. And healthcare. Millions of Canadians can get access to a family doctor. They brag about, and they're even bragging to get more immigrants here, saying you get free healthcare. Is it free if you can't access it? What good is free healthcare if you can't access it?
Well, we're gonna have a clip. If you stay tuned, we're gonna have a clip from Elizabeth May talking about how great the health system is as her hip squeaks because they screwed up, but she's still happy.
The Mark Carney's bragging about the economy. Francois Philippe Champagne is always bragging about Canadians ask us for everything and we give them the biggest tax cut ever. Well, for these Canadians at the lowest end of the rung, it turns out that's $11 for the year. That's what they're going to get, $11. And that'll likely get you a nice coffee at Starbucks with some sprinkles on top and maybe a little.
Don't know if it would even get you that. Especially when you need a tip after.
Yeah.
You need $20 for that these days.
$11, and they bragged that it was $800 for families, and then the PBO put it out there and it said it worked out about $268. Again, more touts that have been debunked by the PBO's office. And this is from the Economic Long Wave. I've interviewed him in the past, and he says that Canada does not look good. He warns that the private debt hit 175% of GDP, and that's in the U.S. in 2008. Now look at Canada. The U.S. peaks were 154, 173, and 150. Japan in 1991 had 213%, and it never recovered. It's still trying to recover. But in Canada, 2020 to 25, we're at 216 and 245. Higher than the U.S. in 1929 and 2008, and Japan in 1990.
We've talked about this before, but I mean, we have. I can't remember the last time I heard this in like a mainstream political, media broadcast or whatever. Can you remember the last time personal debt came up? It's literally like unfathomably bad. It's catastrophically bad, and it has been for ages. This isn't particularly new. Canadian household debt is infamous around the world. It's one of the worst on the planet, alongside exceedingly high national debt as well and provincial debt. I mean, this country is drowning in debt, which is why I found it so strange that the Liberal Party, when all the attention was on the budget, the Liberal Party kept talking about how great Canada's fiscal position was and how we have less debt compared to other G7 countries. No, that's completely wrong. Canada's debt crisis, which is what it probably should be known as, is a very big deal. I can't believe that it's been swept under the rug, and this is just one of it.
So I've interviewed the guy from the Economic Long Wave, and we talked about the economic winter that is coming for Canada. And what do you do when there's an economic winter? You have a couple of choices. You can move south like Mark Carney moved Brookfield. You move it into sunnier climates, or you can get yourself a jacket. And what does a jacket consist of? Gold, silver, Bitcoin, alternative assets. U.S. assets. And what have we seen with the capital outflows out of Canada? Yeah, that's what they're doing. So there is people that recognize there is an economic winter coming to Canada, and they're doing things about it. Yet, you know, they keep telling the people that everything is great. Like if you listen to that last speech from Mark Carney, things are amazing. And we still don't have an answer on a pipeline. We still don't have an answer on a pipeline. The most important thing ever. We don't have an answer. Let's go to the CBC and see if they have the debt on there, if they have this, if they're covering this story. Pull up the CBC almost every day on the show, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of Liberal scandals later too, and I'm sure they're going to be on here, so we're going to front run our own stories here, I think. I'm sure they'll be on here. Well, NHL says incomplete hockey rink. Okay, that's important, right? Brothers locked in a room. Alberta passes bill affecting transgender. Of course, that's important. Okay.
Something about a pro-Palestinian activist.
U.S. businesses claim Canada backdoor.
Robert Munch is going to release dozens of books after he dies.
I mean, I have to say, I haven't seen it.
That's like the biggest segment, isn't it? It's the biggest block on the whole website.
And one of the things, I was going to say no Trump stories, but then I looked down further, and there they are. There's Trump. There you go. So nothing. And you listen in, stay on here. We're the best undiscovered news commentary site on the internet on Canadian news. They won't cover
Some
that.
have said.
Some have said, including us. We've said
That's what we should do. We should do the Trump thing. Like, you know, they're saying, many people are saying now that we're the best undiscovered news source.
I say that with confidence, and people have said it. And I'm wearing a snappy tie today. There you go. 2.5 debt ceiling prudent, according to the Liberals. A record hike in the national debt ceiling is a prudent attempt to uncover ongoing deficits through the rest of the decade, the Department of Finance said yesterday. Imagine that. Cabinet proposes to raise the cap 20% to an unprecedented $2.54 trillion. There are always the possibilities of economic and financial changes. When the debt ceiling was established in 2024, the idea that this would continue for 3 years. So they're even moving it up more than they need, just in case, because we're going to talk about some stories later where they're talking about big budget items that were not in this budget that they outlined. So where's the money coming from? So
I love this stock image that Blacklux have used.
Yeah.
Just flames.
the Canadian dollar is what is fueling this fire here, I'm sure. Yeah. So economic storm, economic winter coming to Canada. You can go find that interview I did with about the economic storm coming, and we're going to do some more. But you're right. We did talk about the Bank of Canada a little bit, but the Bank of Canada held its rate. That's a second hold or pause, you can say, right? Because we paused in October as well after the cuts. We cut in March, we cut in April. Oh no, we paused in April, paused in June, paused in July, had a cut in September, had a cut in October, and paused again here. Or no, sorry, no cut in October, 2 pauses here. And the more important one, though, is if you go to the next slide, the Fed's going to cut today, likely. Jerome Powell under pressure, but it looks like the Americans will cut, and that comes at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So what is that, 11 o'clock our time, just as we're finishing up likely. We'll see whether the Fed cuts. And for our friends at Polymarket there, what do they have it as a chance of a rate cut? 98%. Polymarket, pretty much bang on the money for lots of things. I don't know if you ever follow Polymarket. We used it for the elections in the federal and the provincial election, Polymarket. Pretty much bang on the money. Better than a lot of the polls out there.
Yeah. So it's 25 basis points. So it's still going to be half a point. No, more than half a point. It's going to be considerably. It's going to be a full percentage point higher than Canada's rate still.
Yeah. Spread is always higher, but it gives the Canadian banks room to cut, right? Like, because I mean, that's Canada artificially wants our dollar lower for exports, but I mean, it doesn't make much sense anymore because they don't want our exports. You know, we artificially suppress our dollar. That's been part of the strategy for a long time to artificially push our
dollar.
Yeah. Oh, and here you go. Here's some of the lies, and this was not on. You imagine this. This deputy The deputy, the top manager in the Department of Industry yesterday admitted lying to MPs over his contract with Stellantis. And he said no one asked him to lie. And that's Deputy Minister Philip Jennings. He's trying to cover now. He's saying, I regret the committee was left with a mistaken impression. I lied. I certainly had no intention to misrepresent when I lied. I'm just adding in the extra words there. I've reflected since our last appearance before you, and it's clear to me I could have been more clear, not lying. I accept that Parliament can access the documents it requests. That's a nice way of saying.
I mean, lying is a very specific thing.
Well, look at the first
when
part
you lie, because to lie, you have to know that you're not the truth. Yeah. You have to do it on purpose.
He says.
So that's quite an extraordinary thing to admit.
Look how the language changes. No one asked me to lie. There's the admission of the lie, right? No one asked me to lie. That's his words, right? That's Deputy Minister Philip Jennings. Later on, he says, I regret that the committee was left with a mistaken impression. That's a nice way to say I lied, right? I certainly had no intention to misrepresent. You admitted right there, I lied. And you said nobody helped you lie, because he's covering now for anybody else, because they're saying, why did you lie? So they're trying to like run this up the ladder. Deputy Jennings defied the order, testifying November 25th that Stellantis insisted the contracts remain censored. Who called them out? It wasn't that the Liberals came up and said, oh my God, we made a mistake. Who called them out on this lie? Stellantis. So we never asked for that. So it's obviously a lie, because Stellantis said, we can't do it. So Stellantis didn't cover for them. And he yesterday acknowledged the claim was untrue. He lied. And then they asked him, who told you to lie? No one asked me to lie. There's the clear proof right there. Who told you to lie? No one. No one told me to lie. It's lying. So will he keep his job? Was this on the CBC website? And we can go back and look, but I don't think we need to, because it wasn't there, was it? This is one of the biggest scandals, in the Liberal government so far. You can look, where do you find it? Do you not agree this is one of the biggest scandals, this Stellantis contract, this $15 billion thing where they're moving the production to the US and investing $13 billion US into a new plant in the United States, and they lied.
I've just Googled the guy's name, this deputy minister, and only one relevant result comes up in the news tab, and it's from the Western Standard.
Right.
That's it.
A far-right extremist organization, right? As we are. I mean, where CBC, $1.55 billion. This is a massive scandal, this whole Stellantis thing with Melanie Joly changing her mind. I read it, I didn't read it, and all these things. Who read the contract, who didn't read the contract. Where, CBC? Where? So who can trust the CBC if they don't want to cover this? Instead, they're covering hockey. They do not report news. They do not act in the interests of Canada. They act in the interests of the Liberal Party.
I'm just looking at, I'm reading further down in this Blacklock story as the questioning continued. And he said, we try to find balance. That was one of his defenses. And then rightly is told, it's not your job to find balance. It's your job to comply with the will of parliamentarians, which is the will of the Canadian people expressed democratically.
So again, these people, this is not a fight between like a show between the Liberals and the Conservatives and the Bloc and all that. Committee hearings are for answers to the Canadian public. And that's what the CBC misses too. This is lying to the Canadian public. This is lying to the Canadian public. These are answers. Even when a reporter asks a question, it's not like playing a game with the reporter. Those questions are being asked for the Canadian public. And the Liberals have no respect for the Canadian public. This is a clear. And if he's not fired for this, and Joly and the rest, this is why he's trying to cover for Joly and say no one asked him to lie. The contract is in
and then look at the bottom there. One of the MPs that had a look at the uncensored document says that there's nothing in there. There's nothing in there that would justify censorship.
That's what I mean.
He's probably, he's a partisan. That. He's got a reason to say that. But
you and I talked about that weeks ago, and we said, like, what national security issues could be in this contract?
Yeah.
How many contracts have they refused to provide? How many? And then this lie, this is the typical lie they used to get away with. Like, where are the Stephen Guilbeault contracts where he allegedly funneled tons of green scheme money into his companies? Where are those contracts? I don't know where they are.
We don't
here's
hear much
another
about that anymore. Even the Tories don't bring that up these days.
Well, I mean, there's so much. There's so many. So much. Here's another one. Here's another one. The Department of Health yesterday confirmed it charged taxpayers an undisclosed sum for crack pipes and other drug paraphernalia under its safe supply program. Managers had flatly denied it under questioning on October 2nd. What is another word for flatly denying and then coming clean later? What is that? What do you call that? What do you call that?
Massaging the truth.
Lying. I really appreciate the opportunity to clarify. So they seem to be all of a sudden found religion and would like to start telling the truth. I really appreciate the opportunity to clarify, said the Assistant Deputy Health Minister, Kendall Weber. Why didn't you not lie at the time? So crack pipes, why not? Why not? Free vending machines. That's MP Mazir also confirmed the federal funds paid for crack pipe vending machines. You know, I was just in Tokyo. You only vend, and there are tons of vending machines. No crack pipes in them, though. No crack pipes.
You can get used Pandy's vending machines, but no crack pipes.
Tea, coffee. There was some energy drinks, water. No crack pipes, though. And no homelessness, and no drug addicts on the streets. But here it is, even in Kelowna. During a recent visit in Kelowna, I saw the vending machine on a public sidewalk to dispense drug supplies such as crack pipes and foil, and no ID for screening was required. It was quite remarkable. I could just walk up, hit a number, and just like a regular vending machine. Kelowna, leading the world again in unemployment and in selling crack pipes on the street.
They mentioned Kelowna here as well. It's, this is when this MP was supposed to come in for an interview, wasn't he? But for some reason he couldn't do it. But he's saying that during a recent visit to Kelowna, I saw a vending machine on a public sidewalk.
For that interview, yeah. And this is, he said, the safe injection sites don't promote any type of recovery. You can say they are harm reduction, but in Red Deer, where my riding is, it has decimated our downtown. We've lost hundreds of thousands of businesses. There's one business that loses $8,500 a day from shoplifting from this safe injection site. I would like to know how that is harm reducing, because all that we're seeing is more injection injuries as far as crack pipes. I can't see the difference. Again, this is the key point. I was in Tokyo for 10 days in Osaka. I get up early. That's my habit, at 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't want to wake everybody up. So I went for a walk every morning for 2 hours in different areas of downtown Tokyo and Osaka. And I felt completely safe to do so. I would not go for a walk willingly in Kelowna at 3 o'clock in the morning downtown. And I've asked many people that same question since I've come back, and they all said absolutely not. Would you go for a walk in downtown Ottawa?
I mean, probably, but I'm mad like that. But I wouldn't want my wife or children to do that. No way. But I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm not the person to ask that question to. I'm a strange character.
Well, here's some more liberal lunacy. Here you go. The Department of Canadian Heritage, your friend Stephen Guilbeault, is invoking privacy and concealing terms of a settlement with an anti-Semitic consultant. Laith Marouf of Montreal was paid $122,661 for a series of anti-racism lectures before the manager discovered that he was banned from Twitter for fantasizing about shooting Jews. And we gave him $122,661. Remember who
hasn't done that? Who hasn't fantasized about that?
You remember all the
just
other...
a good old-fashioned Canadian.
What was that other organization that Stephen Guilbeault funded? It was close to $1 million before they cut the funding off. I can't remember the name of it now, but it was, we disclosed that about a month and a half ago. They were producing hate There was an anti-hate network newspaper that was producing hate. You can't remember? Yeah, go back and watch. What's that?
Yeah, I can't remember. There's too much of this stuff, isn't it? It's not like these are one-offs. It's just like every day.
But again, here
like
it is. The settlement agreement was reached in March. The department wrote in an inquiry of ministry tabled in the Commons, the agreement contains a confidentiality clause that prevents disclosure of the details. The Liberals, the party of accountability and transparency, with the big NOT at the end of that. That's their slogan. Accountability and transparency, brackets, NOT. Don't disclose it. That's the best way to do it, right? Or lie, as we've seen with the prior two stories. Just lie.
Or release it, but stifle it, and bank on the media that you fund with taxpayers' money to not report on it. And if it's just the Western Standard and Blacklocks, and then maybe we do this video, I think they're okay with that. And then they can say that, oh no, this is public domain. We're being transparent.
Yeah, we've asked how much money has been spent on Meta with Bill C-18's taking our audience of over 200,000 with Bill C-18 not allowing us to publish on Facebook and Instagram. And these, they said Meta is the evil empire and they must be stopped. And they spent, was it $5 million in 3 months leading up to the election there? And then we asked for an update and they said we can have that number in 2026. But it doesn't do us any good. The Heritage Department, in an internal memo on October 9th, 2024, acknowledged most of the fees were unrecoverable. It estimated that the settling of it this time would recover around 40 grand of the 122,000 paid to Maroof, with both sides likely absorbing their own legal costs. So the memo calculated Maroof owed 142,000, including interest. The $40,000 separate settlement offer represented 28%. So that's what they got back. They said they owed 142,000 back to the government, 40 grand. Can you do that? You should just play that when you're asked for the government for money. Just say, well, if he can only pay, and he committed crimes, basically, hate crimes, and he got that settlement.
Well, that might be the way to do it then. Just make sure that you you hate the right people, then you're in.
So this is some of his tweets here. May death visit the home of every Zionist on earth. That's from Maroof. Life is too short for shoes with laces or for entertaining Jewish white supremacists with anything but a bullet to the head. And the Canadian government doled out cash to this guy. And the same Canadian government that says they need to stop hate, misinformation, disinformation. Well, they fund this, same as this anti-hate network they were funding that was producing hate. Imagine that. Hey, imagine that. We're going to talk more about where we're headed too with this Canadian government. Well, there you go. Joining Alberta and Saskatchewan, Ontario, and rejecting Gary Anderson. How do you pronounce his last name again? Andreskar and Andescandria. I don't know. Andescamia.
Sorry, where are we now? Oh, Ananda Sangari.
And yeah, there you go.
Come on, mate.
Come on, mate.
Classic Canadian name like that. You can't even pronounce it.
I can't do it, man. But anyway, the Yukon says, not a chance. Yeah, let's play this clip here from the Yukon.
And their businesses can prosper. And that is why policing resources should be focused on crime rather than confiscating people's lawfully acquired property. Hunting and shooting are foundational to Yukoners' way of life, particularly to First Nations exercising their constitutional rights. Unlike criminals, the territory's gun owners are thoroughly vetted, law-abiding citizens. And that is why the government will take action to support the rights of legal gun owners in this territory. And we will advise the Government of Canada that Yukon government will not participate in Ottawa's firearms buyback program.
There's like a $500 million program that Mark Carney and the Liberals have set up for this gun buyback program. Remember the leaked memo? And Gary's still an MP and still in caucus there. You know, in that leaked memo when he said he would cover, he didn't even agree with the program and he would cover his tenants' costs. He still survived too. Like it's just absolutely abysmal. And I think they spent about 50 million. I'm just from memory here, 50 million bucks. And how many guns have they got back so far?
I think it's about 0, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It was the goose egg, the goose. We got
Sorry,
the goose egg back.
Out of morbid fascination, sorry to rewind, but I've just checked out that Laith Marouf. Just out of interest, just popped on his LinkedIn, just for a giggle, and he describes himself as a he says, "I've been disrupting settler colonialism and oppression in the media since 1999." Like, I just find it so interesting. We talk about intersectionality. The only intersection I ever see is all of these sort of pet hatreds and causes of the far left. They all intersect, don't they? And they all seem to hate the same things. One of which is the Jewish people. He was also an equity officer at one point. Isn't it remarkable? I mean, you could give me $600,000 a year to work for the Canadian government, for the federal government, and I could have looked at his LinkedIn and then said, no, let's not give this person taxpayers' money. I mean, is that a talent? Is that a talent that I have? Is that rare to be able to do that?
You would have broke the privacy laws by looking at his LinkedIn.
Yeah, probably. I'd probably be in jail now for doing that.
Well, we did that story yesterday where they were talking about how we can't fill up the jails, like because there's overcrowding and that. Don't worry about the victims. And one of the things that we missed in there when I played it back and listened to it was, they said that they had to release all these people from jail due to COVID, to overcrowding. But they locked everybody else up in their homes. Why didn't just lock, you know what I mean? Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Anyway. And this one, it wasn't in the budget, but here he goes. Here's Melanie Jolie with $1.7 billion for science. She believes in science. Does this ring any bells? Remember this? I believe in science. I am the science. Who said that?
If you use that verb,
I control the
to describe something to do with science. If you use belief, say I believe in science, you automatically need to just you need to go into the hole in the ground when I press the button.
Let's listen to Melanie Jolie dig another hole.
We live right now in a more complex and dangerous world. And while certain countries are turning their back on academic freedom and cutting research and weakening science, we believe in science and we believe in research. And that is why today we're doubling down. We're seizing the opportunity. There's lots of things in this world we cannot control, but there are lots of things we can control. And what we do with science in our country is something we can control. So let me say that in English as well. So it is my pleasure today to announce that we will be attracting 1,000 new researchers, the best and the brightest in the world, and we will have the biggest budget on earth to do that. So it's $1.7 billion, $1 billion for research chairs, $400 million for research infrastructure, working with Canadian Foundation for Innovation, $120 million for early career researchers, and $134 million for top international doctoral students and postdoctorate researchers. So we will not only be doing that, but we will have concierge services when it comes to immigration. So we will make sure that these researchers are well supported and can get through the immigration process quickly. So my message is Canada is the most beautiful and safe country in the world. And so to all the researchers around the world that are looking to move, well, you know what? We should be your first choice because we will make sure that we welcome you with open arms. And you can do research here in French, in English, and you will be able to prosper, and we will support you. And my message to Canadians out there, it's time to come back home.
If you just tuned in, this is not the Comedy Channel. This is Canada's best undiscovered news commentary show on the internet, and you can like, share, subscribe. Please help us get the word out there. But we do have comedy bits in there, and that is a bit of comedy there. As Melanie Jolie says, you can do research in French and English. I don't know if research really matters. Like language doesn't really play a role in research that I know of.
And if you want to have a high-ranking job in the government or anywhere really, it's not just that you can do it in English and French. It's that if you don't speak both English and French fluently, then you're not going to get a job. Hence, I'm here, Melanie Jolie, in this top job, even though I've got a double-digit IQ and I'm possibly drunk a lot of the time. But I speak English and French. So, you know, I mean, there's so many things wrong with that. But I have to do the I want to be like Goldfinger, James Bond villain. I just want to push the button and open the Shark Tank as soon as they say we believe in science. Just like you can't speak like that and expect to be taken seriously. We believe in science. What does that mean? It's not a religion. You could say something like, I trust the scientific method, or I believe the scientific method is accurate and works out well for us, or something like that. But I believe in science, or we believe in science. It's just nonsensical, isn't it? I don't think they've even thought what that means or what that sounds like, treating science as a religion. But they also don't believe in science anyway, because they don't believe, you know, even if you take them on their own terms, they don't believe what scientists discover, do they? A lot of the times they just reject it if they don't like it. Like the fact that, just one example, that renewables in Canada are not really going to work out. You know, that it's not going to suffice.
Yeah, there's a couple points in there that when she started off, she basically took her stick out and stuck it in the American's eye, and then wonder why we have like a strained relationship with the United States. You know, right there, she says that we believe in academic, like the Americans don't believe in anything, right? I mean, they're leading in almost every industry. So, Jolie, I don't know what you're talking about. And your last point there was like, come back home. Come back home from where? You know where they are, right? Come back home. Come back home, she says. And the other point that Canadians should be just angry about is they're going to get a concierge service. They're going to get treated better than any Canadian. Like, what? We treat our citizens like second-class citizens. You're better off to leave, rip up your passport, and come back in and say claim asylum. It becomes so ridiculous here that I don't know. Like it doesn't even make sense anymore. And where was this in the budget? Did you see this line item for $1.7 billion for We Believe in Science here? I didn't see it.
I'm sure it was some section of the budget probably covered it, and then they've just taken liberties with it, given it to Melanie, and she's just just had a laugh. She got her crayons out. She's like, believe in science.
She just pulled up one of Anthony Fauci's speeches and just like, okay, use believe in science. I am the science. I am the science.
Lightning Rod says that we're lame when it comes to science. Damn. Sorry to disappoint, Mr. Rod.
We're lame?
I mean, I don't mean to sound conceited here, but I actually know what science is. I think that's probably the difference. That's probably why I sound lame to you. I just can't swallow bollocks when it comes from somebody that doesn't know the first thing about science or technology.
And technology. I would challenge anybody on technology. But anyway, hey, Lightning Rod's entitled to his belief, even though he must be drinking the Kool-Aid from Melanie Jolie's jug.
Double entendre there, not intended.
The Department of National Defense has no idea how to train, equip hundreds of thousands of reservists. This is we're going to build our military. Nobody wants to join. Underpaid, underfunded, under-equipped, and underhoused. The Department of National Defense hasn't figured out how to will train and equip hundreds of thousands of reservists the military plans to recruit to defend Canada. According to documents obtained by CBC, the department said in July 2025 that it was struggling to even equip the meager number of personnel currently employed. We have about 55,000 active in the military. I think our full complement is 75. They tried for 2 years to get immigrants to join, and they didn't even join. And I think they were bragging that CTV was carrying the water for the Liberals, and they were bragging that they got 204 recruits to put through the system, 204. And the Auditor General checked their living accommodations. She checked 7 of 14 there. or 7 of 14 she checked, sorry, 7 of 14 she checked, didn't have safe drinking water, toilets that didn't work, and walls that were deteriorating. That's how we treat our military. And they got a raise, though. They got a 20% raise at the lowest end of the rung. They were basically almost at minimum wage. So they were making about $40,000 a year, and they got a 20% raise. So you figure that out, 20 times 4, right? Not much. And then the average bureaucrat makes $136,000. So where do you want to go? And then when they asked the bureaucrats to join, they said they could be part of the reserve, and there's like, not a chance. They asked the Coast Guard. They asked the Coast Guard to become part of the military. And what did the Coast Guard say? No. We don't want guns. We have nothing to do with guns. They don't even board ships, our Canadian Coast Guard. They're just not interested. They were trying to put the Coast Guard into the budget, and the Coast Guard said, good one.
Peace and love, man. That's their philosophy. They're not interested.
Maybe Lightning Rod, you can help us out here with the Canadian military. How many subs do we have?
He's the one that says we hate Canada, and he's the patriot. So I guess if he's a true patriot, he can get some fatigues on, get the camo on, get a shotgun, and go out and fight the Russians.
How many subs do we have? I'll answer it for you if you can't answer really quick. 4 diesel subs. And what are we going to do? We're going to buy more diesel subs when we're going up against nuclear. Good one. The 2 of those.
There is an amazing line that's relevant in this CBC story. It's actually quite a good story, this, because they've got hold of some documents. But a professor at the Royal Military College of Canada in Kingston says, quite amusingly, he's not very optimistic about this plan, but he comes out and says, this country on a good day can mobilize 3 frigates and 8 CF-18s. That's what he says. He's sort of, I mean, he's kind of letting the cat out of the bag there, but he's like saying Canada has no military whatsoever. 3 frigates and 8 very out-of-date planes. That's it. That's what we've got. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be laughing. This is one of those laugh or cry moments, really, isn't it?
Well, again, the last 2 incursions into the Pacific coast by unidentified flying objects or planes that are entering our airspace that were unidentified were answered by not those CF-18s they couldn't fire up. They're sitting on the tarmac. They were responded to by American fighter jets. And then, a lot of the liberals will say they responded to by NATO. Okay, who's NATO?
Oh, NORAD. That's the other one that they'll say. Oh, NORAD did that. It's like, okay, the Americans then.
Who defends our north? Who defends our north? With nuclear subs, nuclear warships, and F-35s. Right, we don't have any F-35s. Must be the Americans. But guess who we're butting up against here? This should scare the bejesus out of everybody. Because we see what's going on in the UK and the EU. And here you go. This has not been leaked out by our government, but the EU, European Commission has put it out there. This week, we reinforce cooperation with Canada, boost competitiveness, innovation, and economic resilience at the first Digital Partnership Council. EU-Canada Digital Partnership.
How overused is Moraine Lake, and just the Alberta sort of Rockies in general? Canada doesn't look like that, really. That's one specific part of Canada that looks like that. But they always use that picture, don't they? I mean, I know that's like neither here nor there, but I just wish people would stop using that picture. But in a sense, it kind of just shows how little the Europeans know about Canada. It's like they probably think Canada's just like Moraine Lake everywhere, don't they?
The Lightning Rod, he's always a source of humor, says that the F-35s don't work in the north. Well, what do you think's up there protecting our north? F-35s and F-22 Raptors. Best look. Just do a little search, ChatGPT. See what defends the north. They must have a way to fire them up, eh? But hey, let's get those Gripens that aren't even stealth jets. They can be target practice for whenever the Chinese decide that they want to blast them out of the air.
By the way, I don't think you read the last line, did you, in that previous story, which is where the chief of the Canadian military says progress is being made on this plan to recruit people, and then she says staff are now planning to plan.
Planning to plan.
Can you believe that?
That's the best for Canada, like MOUs, a meeting to have a meeting. We've done a lot of those. Like how many photo ops has Mark Carney done around the world where he's signing guest books while Trump's signing deals? So because he likes that photo op thing, Trump's signing a deal. He's like, he got that big, his Sharpie out there signing a deal. And there's Mark Carney signing a guest book, and the Canadian media plays it like it's a deal. And they say, we've signed an MOU. What does that mean? We're planning, and then he's gone there. He says, and we plan to meet again. Meetings for meetings. This one should worry you.
We've set up a working group so that we can figure out how to plan this thing that's never going to happen.
And then just for lightning round, we don't hate Canada. We're trying to make it better. Media's job is to hold power accountable. Unlike the CBC that props up power. Who's doing the better job, us or the CBC? CBC gets $1.5 billion. Did they cover any of the stories we covered? If we held our politicians to account, maybe they wouldn't lie willingly in committee hearings. Maybe they wouldn't lie so much. Maybe. Hey? Is media's job
what is it? Sorry, accidentally misrepresent or accidentally create a situation where you misunderstand.
Is media's job, this is a good one, just for lightning round, is media's job to hold power accountable, or is it to parrot their information and make them look good? Is that what it is? Because then if that's the truth, then we will start doing that for you. U.S. ambassador downplays fears of Trump administration meddling in Canadian politics. Peter Hoekstra, I guess he's been vilified as well, has rejected the idea that Donald Trump's new national security strategy could result in the White House interfering in Canadian. He already has interfered in Canadian politics when he supported Mark Carney, won the election with it. The document's mention of backing politically aligned parties in other countries has caused concern for some Canadians. But the Americans throughout history have backed parties. I mean, that is part of their policies. They've even installed governments, removed governments. That's what they're doing in Venezuela right now. That's what they do.
Yep, and that's the Monroe Doctrine. They've claimed that right for many years. The only reason that it didn't happen quite so often in Canada is because Canada was part of the British Empire. But if you read about things like the Fenian insurgency and things like that, the Americans they were involved actually with potential regime change, even like rebellions and things in Canada. The Americans, you're completely right. They've always done this, and they always will. But I mean, in many ways, the miracle is that they don't do it even more obnoxiously and even more brazenly. Although maybe that is about to happen.
Lightning Rod says that our truth is more like a little biased. Which part's biased? Which part is biased? When the deputy minister lied, which part is biased there? Which part is biased? Which part? I'm just confused as to which part is biased. Anyway, Kirsten Hillman also giving her resignation, and she was she was the ambassador to the United States. We also have that guy that is one of the envoys there, living in that penthouse. Remember that guy we did that story? I think about a month back, living in that multi-million-dollar penthouse. And even his coffee maker was worth $5,000. Just living up life in a penthouse in Manhattan. Well, Canadians.
Funny you mentioned $5,000, because when I was reading just to quote another line from that story, the Canadian military lists in that note that it costs $1,850 to close, and then another $6,000 for basic weapons and ammunition. And we're told repeatedly that it's hard to find that money, aren't we? I just think it's so interesting when you say that about a coffee machine. But that's easy to find.
Remember that this is the classic when there was a guy in a wheelchair in a Justin Trudeau town hall, and he asked for money for a wheelchair, and Justin Trudeau said, "Sadly, we don't have any money for that."
Yeah.
For a wheelchair. And they later on offered him MAID. Good job. But they had $122,000 for that anti-Semite that was saying that, what was it? The only good thing for a Jew is a bullet in the head, something like that. $122,000 for him. Millions of dollars for that Manhattan penthouse. How much did Greg Fergus spend in 1 year as Speaker of the House on his junkets? That's right, $297,000 money for him. Which part are we being biased about, Lightning Rod? $297,000.
Well, that MP that had a job for like a week. I can't remember what it was now.
Yeah, 100 grand.
Yeah. What did she spend? It's like an unbelievable amount of money in like 6 days or something.
Yeah, and then I think Carney's first retreat even blew away Justin Trudeau's spending. I mean, it's so much, and I guess that's part of it. There's so much, I guess you could say, fraud, waste, abuse, corruption. You pick the number there. Incompetence, whatever it is. There's so much of it. You know, it's hard to put your finger on something that's important because the biggest scandal is this Stellantis thing. No coverage. And we're going to talk about the other big scandal that's coming up in the BC news. That's a federal scandal as well. And it just gets buried in a mountain of scandals. But here's what the Financial Post is focusing on here in Canada. Truck drivers are encountering a new risk on the highway. Officers empowered to pull them off the road if they fail an English test. Right. So they're saying thousands of drivers being swept up in Trump's immigration agenda, upending critical pillar of U.S. economy. Right, that truck that did the illegal U-turn in the Florida Turnpike there and decapitated 3 people because he couldn't even read road signs, couldn't speak English. Don't get him off the road though, right? And there's video, we played them. We've ever since that started, we played tons and tons of truckers that don't follow the rules and the laws. But hey, let's not worry about that. Let's talk about how this is Trump's ICE agenda, and the CBC was also doing that story on how, you know, how dare this Canadian company sell vehicles to ICE. This is what we focus on. Well,
I mean, what would happen if you did that in Canada? Was my immediate question. What would happen if you started pulling truck drivers over here, ones that couldn't speak English?
They can't read road signs. Don't do illegal U-turns. And there was a scandal in Ontario. There was a scandal in Ontario of one trucking driver's license outfit that was actually basically selling truckers' licenses. Truckers, it was $5,000, and they were just fast tracking people to get them on the road. That had no idea how to drive a 50-ton weapon on the highway. You know what happens when you
through the mountains as well, through through the Rockies.
When you hit a 50-ton vehicle with your Prius. Ridiculous. Shareholders look like they're going to approve that Anglo-American $27 billion merger with Teck, and there's another Canadian company swallowed up by foreign companies. And it's only waiting for Canada's hokey dokey on the deal, but both shareholders from Teck and Anglo-American have okayed the deal, and that was overwhelmingly approved, this $27 billion all-share merger. So no cash in the deal. It's just straight up share exchange. And this is overwhelming approval, 99% on Anglo-American and 99% of the Teck's companies, and 89% of the Teck.
David Eby he's been delighted by this, hasn't he? Saying we're going to have the largest company in the history of the province, headquartered in Vancouver, just totally ignoring what you've just said, the context, the reality of this. This is like it's like a foreign buyout, really, isn't it?
And Teck is really a BC company. Teck, like Teck, Cominco, Teck, lots of BC roots and Alberta roots too. Let's not forget Teck, a little irritated with Canada when it was working on the Frontier project in the tar sands in Fort Mac, spent over $1 billion. And I still remember watching that with my jaw dropped that morning. Because I work out and I watch Bloomberg. And I remember my jaw dropping and said, Teck no longer sees a path forward. It's just going to walk away from that over $1 billion investment in the tar sands because of what? They saw no certainty with the Liberal government. They were hitting with a roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. Think of what that would have added to our GDP. That was a Liberal squashed project as well. You go ahead and research it. And if you want to say that's biased, just hit ChatGPT and ask it a question. Frontier project, Teck. What happened? It's easy to make it seem like we're biased because it's just, some of the stuff is just like so abysmal. It's just, it's disheartening. Like, we need change. We need change. Yeah, Tesla trucks are rolling as semi-trucks. I think DHL is taking delivery. There's someone says driverless trucks all over the roads now. I don't think they're operating that way, but Tesla is now starting to roll out their trucks. DHL, Pepsi is now, and Frito-Lay are driving Tesla trucks, and they're starting to roll them out everywhere. The Tesla trucks in their first test, the Tesla semis doing extremely well. Here's one of the remarkable things about the Tesla semi. You know, when you're like going up a hill and you know, like you're behind a semi and it's slow, you know what I mean? Because it's pulling a load, diesels go slow up a hill. Guess what a Tesla semi does? The speed limit. Like it doesn't bother it. It just pulls. There you go. There's lots of advantages.
Doesn't need to put the hazards on and block traffic for 20 minutes.
Or do illegal U-turns. Maybe if we had driving them, we wouldn't have to worry about people that. I mean, it's odd that people defend illegal activities and people, things that make you unsafe, and they find some ideology to kind of like defend and then go after the Americans, whatever red meat they can find. It's just absolutely ridiculous, right? Anyway, let's move on to the BC news.
Live from the Now Media Newsroom.
Well, I put this on yesterday with, I did be on the ballot yesterday with Renee Merrifield, former MLA here in BC. And I said, oh, this unknown lady put up her show, and she said, oh, she's actually very connected here, this Caroline Elliott, and we're going to try and get her on the show with me and Renee next week. We're going to try and get her on, but she is talking about, I think she's somehow related to, I think, Kevin Falcon somehow or something. You have to go watch the show. I'm just using my old memory there from yesterday. Let's play this little clip from her on the Cowichan ruling, though.
Look, Doctor, there's obviously a leadership question here. Lenders are already pulling back sort of post-Cowichan ruling, like in that Richmond building project. How is EB's behind closed doors or cowardly hands-off approach to these court rulings already hitting families and the economy? And, you know, the BC Conservatives have finally moved on from John Rostad and are rallying strong into the holidays. What do you want to see from BC's leadership, like in this apparent vacuum over the last few months on this file?
Well, the BC Conservatives are absolutely right to have shifted significantly, I think, since John Rostad's departure in calling for an immediate repeal of DRIPA. That's, again, did I explain this? It's the legislation that puts UNDRIP into BC's laws. So that's the right call. I think that absolutely has to happen. It's an incredibly damaging framework in a country that actually already has really well-established constitutional rights that protect the rights of Indigenous peoples in various ways. Now, yeah, we're seeing huge uncertainty on the land base. We're seeing concern around lenders pulling out of deals in Richmond. We're seeing all kinds of title claims being made all around British Columbia on Vancouver Island, in the interior, in Coquitlam, you name it. So, and it's only going to keep happening. As I say to people all the time, the Cowichan title ruling was not the end of something. It was the beginning of something. It was the first of many. Actually, it wasn't even the first title declaration, but it was the first one over private property. So we have a very complex situation here. It does require really strong leadership. And what we've seen from the provincial government is a unwillingness to fight these claims adequately in court due to a directive issued by David Eby himself when he was Attorney General. It tied the BC lawyers' hands behind their back when they were making their arguments against some of these claims. That directive is still in place, by the way. He has not walked it back. So when we see these other claims being made, we should be very worried about the case that the government's putting forward. And there's a whole host of other issues, but I want to give you a chance to ask a question before I keep yakking.
No, that's why you're here. You're the expert.
That's good. Joe, here's a tweet by Jordan Armstrong, works for Global here. The EB's starting to feel the heat for this, and I think even the reporters that are, you know, typically on the far left there are starting to realize that their own properties could be up for, and it's really hurting investment in British Columbia right now. I mean, that last decision affected a gold mine. So who's going to invest capital in BC right now when you have no idea?
Well, it's not just mines, is it? I mean, it's what she said, and other people have said. It's like a precedent. It's precedent setting, isn't it? So it's going to affect everything, not just how you apply for mining rights or whatever. It's going to affect absolutely every aspect of
so there's lots of
government, of life, of everything in British Columbia. It almost turns British Columbia into it gives it a new political system almost overnight. It's impossible to exaggerate this, really. It's so crazy. And I'm wondering what EB's thinking right now, because he must, in his war room, he must be thinking, like, do I pull the trigger now and do an election? Do I call an election?
The lawsuits have started for EB, I believe, on this now already. So there's going to be a lot of lawsuits against the BC government because they won't have the money to pay this all back, because this calls into the legitimacy of the BC government, because they're the ones that sold this crown land. They sold this crown land to people that have the only recourse they really have is to sue the BC government because they suffered damages. Because if the courts award this land to First Nations, then the homeowner only has one recourse: sue the government. How much money does the BC government have? Like they're wallowing in debt as well. The NDP, they've made a mess. And here's Christy Clark. Is she getting ready? Look at this, Christy Clark. Is she getting ready? Look at that photo there, Christy Clark. 15 years ago, we launched a campaign with one goal: to build a stronger BC. We were the underdogs. This looks like a pre-campaign test, doesn't it to you? What does this look like?
Well, she's obviously eager to get back in the game, isn't she? She fancied it for the Liberal Party, even. Like, you know, she was willing to do anything just to get back on the scene.
She's got a closet with a bunch of hats in there. She's like Liberal, Conservative.
Yeah. Which membership card?
Shuffling through the cards. I just need a job. Come on. She's on CTV a lot right now. So this looks like a campaign precursor to see what kind of reaction she gets on this post. And I mean, she's got a big name. She was in Mario Canseco's poll. She polled quite high, actually. I mean, she's got a name, right? I don't know how good it is after she got caught lying. I mean, she's, you know, like, for her first thing, she got caught lying, and that's what basically killed her bid for the Conservative Party there. Or the Liberal Party. I didn't even know which party she was running for. What was it? The Liberal Party, I think she was running for.
But she had been a member of the Tories, but, you know, denied that she had been. She might be similar to the kind of rehabilitation of Stephen Harper. I think people look at Harper and are maybe going to look at Christy Clark, and it's almost like that's like BC, isn't it? It's like that's before Christ. But it's like, you know, it's before things really got crazy, before the NDP Green coalition, COVID, and then in the BC context, and before Justin Trudeau and all that madness in the federal context. I think people reappraise recent history, don't they, when that sort of thing happens, and they might look at her with a kind of like nostalgia, almost, just like saying, like, let's just go back to before all this mad stuff started happening. I think in part that's why Joe Biden won in 2020 as well. It was like, okay, we did the Trump thing for 4 years, now let's go back to a familiar face from before times, before it got mad. And that's he sort of cashed in on that, I think, Biden and his campaign. It was like, let's go back to the good old days kind of thing. So I think she would have a shot if she used that old technique.
I won't rehash everything because Renee and I covered this off very well yesterday. We covered off some of the candidates. But David Eby's got to be worried right now. He's got to be worried because depending on who they pick as a leader, Rustad was weak for him. It was great. They could make a mess. You and I interviewed Jonathan Kay, and he said, you know, like, as bad as NDP's in La La Land, the Conservatives are just in chaos. So if they can find a Stephanie or Stephen Harper, and she doesn't look like either Stephanie Harper to me, but if they can find somebody that can unify the Conservatives and pull them back together, and then because David Eby loses on so many things, the majority of British Columbians want a pipeline. That is one big issue right there. They want a pipeline. The economy sucks in British Columbia, and the property thing. I mean, there's so many things. Like Eby, I don't think he wants an election, because if they pick the right leader, he's going to lose to the nth degree. Like the NDP might be sent into hinterland here because they've made a mess. Healthcare, decriminalization of drugs, crime and safety. I don't know, debt. I don't even know where they would come out on top other than they go back to their old issues of misogyny,
Identity politics.
identity politics, virtue signaling, Donald Trump. That's all they have.
That's all they have. And this is what the Dripper, that was another facet of identity politics, wasn't it, as well? That was an attempt to say, like, if you don't support this, you hate First Nations and, you know, you're against First Nations. It was, again, a kind of identity, race kind of thing. And he's been recorded saying some insane things, David Eby, like correcting the original colonial mistake, talking about British Columbia. It's like, what original colonial mistake? You mean Canada? You said correct the mistake of Canada. Because that's basically what, to translate that into English, that's basically what he's saying. Yeah, I mean, crackers times. He hasn't really been a success, has he? And nor has the NDP. And he also doesn't really have all that much of a personality. He's got that sort of passive aggressive sanctimoniousness where he like looks down on people, and he says like, we're not like that in BC. But that's not a personality. You know, like John Horgan had a personality. That's kind of why he won, I think, why he actually won, you know, in 2020, actually won a proper election.
Go watch that show with Renee, and somebody says, Brett here says, a regular watcher says, what about Renee herself? And we did pitch that, and Iain and I are big, strong believers in Renee, but I think she wants to focus on what she's doing. She has really developed into a strong voice, though, I think, and I do have Gavin Dew in. He also pulled high. Gavin Dew is going to be in at around 4 o'clock today. We're going to do something on the Airbnb policies here in BC and Kelowna. So Kim Campbell, that's hilarious. Why don't we just find somebody? Eleanor Sturko, a big strong voice. Eleanor Sturko, big strong voice. So I don't know. There's lots out there. So, I mean, David Eby's got to be worried. They got to find somebody that can find the center and bring people together. That's why they got to bring those fractures together. That's the most important thing.
Ken Sim
might be a good guy. I mean,
he might. I would go on. I'd put a few dollars on him being premier at some point on Polymarket.
Ken Sim, like, you know, going for that again. The rest of the cities across Canada going for a 0% tax increase. That a boy, Ken. And wants to make Vancouver the Bitcoin capital of Canada. Another win, right? Like, come on. And here's one that should be one of the top scandals for the BC NDP and for the federal Liberals, and yet it gets buried in a slew of other scandals. This BC Ferry thing, and this is from the BC Ferry Marine Workers Union. They don't want to let this go. They say they want this deal killed. 69% say that they should renegotiate the China contract and bring some of this work back to BC. What did Jolie and them always say? We have built Canada strong, use Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum, and Canadian workers. And then they sent that contract over to China for cost and said that Canada can't compete. I wonder why. We can't do slave labor here, can we? Human rights violations, is that okay? Can we do that?
Oh, currency. I mean, we were talking about Canada keeping the dollar low, but we can't do currency manipulation like the Chinese do either, which is pretty important.
No industrial
and just
carbon
massive
tax
pollution, like destroying rivers and things.
No industrial carbon tax there. We have it here. And then also, they use inferior steel and aluminum. Man, if we could do all those things, we could start to compete. So is that what we want? David Eby, is that what we want? Mark Carney? Mark Carney has still not been forced to answer to this question, has he? They gave $1 billion of Canada Infrastructure Bank money to China. And we did the story way back then, too, of all the strings that tie Mark Carney to the McKinsey & Co., to the Canada Infrastructure Bank, and to China. Brookfield got a loan from China. It's, you know, like, it's disheartening. Fortis, BC, says gas rates going up in early January, but not on the gas, just on the other stuff, right? Just on the infrastructure. Just whatever you want to make up, right? 11% though, too. 11%. Talk about inflation. Here it is. One of the most things that you rely on is heat for your home. 11%. But, you know, they break it down. That's only going to cost the average home about, you know, $11. Is it? Is it?
Yeah.
What is the average home according to them? Apartment building that has 3 interior walls and 300 square feet. Is that the average home? because I
And you have
bet
the heating on
11%
for
bill.
an hour and a half a
Bet.
day.
Yeah, I can bet you most homes are not going up $11, $10.95. Good one.
But this critical upgrades to infrastructure and all that. I mean, I haven't actually looked, so I'm not going to pretend that this is how it is. But often that is related to trying to comply with new, clean BC regulations and things like that.
They
like,
wanted an LNG pipeline. They wanted more LNG, and what did the BC NDP say to them? No.
Well, not only did they want it, but they warned that it would be catastrophic if they didn't have it, didn't they? That was their claim.
And they said you can get a windmill, and now all of a sudden they should go back and ask because all of a sudden LNG is okay in BC.
Yeah, exactly. It's completely changed on that now. So ask again.
We're going to move on to our international news.
Live from the Now Media newsroom.
Apparently, Zelensky says he's ready for peace talks. I don't know. Or sorry, election talks.
He's obviously trying to appease Trump here, isn't he?
Said he's ready, but I mean, what does that mean, right?
It's like ready to build a pipeline.
He's making the rounds. He's like, in Finland. He's in the UK. He's meeting with the Three Stooges. I mean, the three. Sorry, did I say Stooges? Macron, Starmer, and Chancellor Schulz. Hey.
Schulz. It's not him anymore, is it? That was the old one. It's Merz now.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, the very fact that you couldn't remember that just goes to show how insignificant Germany is now in foreign policy. It's just like, who even cares? Who even cares who the leader of Germany is? Like, what difference does it make?
And this is one where the Americans, again, they're just quick. And they are quick. The U.S. has purchased the entire production of rare earth mine in Brazil until 2030, covering what was already agreed with the EU. The EU Commissioner of Industry said last month I was supposed to go to Brazil and discuss the rare earth mine. 3 days before that, the Americans swooped in and just said, no, we bought it all till 2030. Sucks to be you.
It's a shame because the EU is so good with the climate and environmental regulations and all the rest of it. You would have thought, Mark Carney has told us that that's like the golden key that will open all doors. But nobody wants
to deal with the Americans because they don't have CCUS, sorry, carbon capture, utilization, and storage. I didn't get those numbers right. I mean, that's the biggest tax scheme they're going to push down our throats here. CCUS, carbon capture, utilization, storage. Good an acronym, right? That's always nice to have one of those, right? Because then you can hide anything you want in there, right? It should say the new, better, improved tax scheme. That's what it should say. But Americans went there and put money on the table. And again, you know what else they can put on the table? The one thing that the Americans can put on the table before anybody else can put on the table? The military. You want some protection? They're like the Italian mafia, right? You need protection? Who are you going to go to? Who are you going to call?
But it's even bigger than that, isn't it? I mean, we probably don't have time to go into all the ways that America controls the world, but financially as well. But the financial institutions, the IMF, all of these organizations, even the UN to some extent, is like within the control of the United States. It's headquartered in New York. Like the Americans, I don't know why people get so upset about this, but whether you like it or not, they are by such a massive distance, like the kingpins of this planet. And if they want something, as in this case, they're going to get it. To think that the Europeans go on, and Mark Carney, that they go on about, like, we have all this clean technology, therefore we're going to get all these deals. Like, shut up, man. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about that.
You know what else Brazil wins at? If they do the deal with the Americans, they don't have to listen to insufferable fools tell them about clean carbon capture and all that stuff. They're just like, you want to buy some of this stuff? Here's the stuff. Give us some money. And plus, they'll.
Well, not only that, but to be patronized on all other sorts of things, like their lack of transgender representation in Parliament or something. Like, they don't have to listen to any of those lectures. They can just get on with it, and it's a business transaction, and it's all about hard power, and it's a deal. I mean, the Americans, obviously, it's not quite that simple. The Americans do have a lot of expectations, but I think a lot of countries are going to find that easier to swallow than this sort of neurotic European Union asking and, well, part asking, part telling. Like they're not bothered about that. Like countries, they don't want to do that, especially when the European Union is pretty stagnant anyway. It's not exactly economically impressive.
You know, like when there's a joke laying there or an idea laying there, they're just so good. Why don't we copy those ideas? And these are ideas that are for the working class people, and they're laying there, and Trump has laid them out, and you're starting to hear the benefits of these things. The fruits are starting to come home. And here's Trump's kicking off like a blitz there in Pennsylvania there. And you got a young lady on stage there. And these are the things that Canada needs. These things would help Canadians right now that are having trouble putting food on their table. Let's listen in.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you so much. As President Trump said, I'm a mom, a wife. I homeschool my two brilliant children. And the no tax on tips is incredible. No tax on overtime is incredible for my husband. And it all comes back to our family. It saves us, and it's for the future of our children. And it's been such a blessing to be home with them and to have them here with me tonight. And thank you for everything, President.
Is she just a random woman then? Just somebody that works in a restaurant? Americans, you know, it's easy to hate on Americans, but they are also like just amazing people, aren't they? That just a random woman that works in a restaurant or something is capable of addressing like thousands of people really confidently, clearly, lots of personality. Not many people around the world, not many countries can produce people like that. Like it's something very special about America and Americans.
So the payoff is coming. This is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. You remember this guy said too when they asked him what his stock portfolio is doing, because you know he's obviously on the inside track. What did he say? I don't have a stock portfolio. I sold it all because we need to sell it all because we can't be profiting off of that. And they said, well, what about a blind trust? And he said, no such thing as a blind trust. And then we said, well, couldn't Scott Bessent come to Canada? Because he could have a blind trust here and he could be raking it in. Scott Bessent, one of the I really like Scott Bessent, and he's a straight shooter. And you know, one of the things I really like about Scott Bessent is that he has a husband, and he never talks about it. He never plays that card. Imagine that in Canada, that card would be played all the time. But Scott Bessent confirms 100 to 150 billion in tax refunds coming in 2026, the largest in history, over $1,000 to $2,000 per household. And then they're starting that kids fund too. Like if anybody under 10 is going to get $1,000 in their bank account into a child savings account, and that's going to be huge for Americans. And they need to do that in Canada. These are easy ideas. Why don't they do it here? And here's a little clip from Fox on this, because they're starting to see these things start to come in. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, Social Security deduction, no tax on American-made car loan interest. The Green New Scam regulations cut, and that's lowering the cost of cars by $1,000, $2,000, and the child tax credit expansion to $2,200. But let's play the clip here.
On tips and overtime, there's a max reduction for tips is $25,000. So imagine if you are somebody who uses tips as part of your salary or to make your living, that will have an impact. The senior deduction, you have to be 65 years old. It phases out at $75,000. But again, for people who are saying, gas prices, which are lower, but that food prices are higher, that it's hard for them, that might help as well. There's a no tax on car loan interest. Now, that can be helpful, but what might be even more helpful is what they announced last week, which is they're doing away with some of the EPA rules on these car and fuel mileage. That actually will help bring the cost of cars down, probably even more. And then a child tax credit expansion. That's very bipartisan. A lot of people like this. A lot of people love to see good economic news, but I would say Josh Holmes, our next guest here. Josh, you know communications very well. To me,
that's good. I mean, those are things that make an impact to people right away instead of $11.
Well, a lot of this is, you know, it's trying to release money to the people, isn't it, to increase demand and do it that way. Whereas the Canadian, the Liberal Party's idea is, we're not going to give you more money to spend yourself. We're going to take your money and we're going to create these huge bureaucracies like and programs like the dental program, pharmacare, all the rest of it. And then we're gonna like sit there behind a desk and give you stuff. Like, if you come and ask us and become a part of the,
Like the
submit
Politburo.
yourself to the bureaucracy. Whereas the Americans are like, okay, we'll just cut the tax so you can work and keep more of your money, and we'll do less, kind of thing. It's just a completely different philosophy, isn't it?
It's incentives. No tax on overtime. Do that here. Do that here. So people will want to work harder. No tax on overtime. No tax on tips. Man, it's no tax on Social Security. I mean, CPP. Just help people. Just help people. Instead of creating what's that housing thing? Build Canada Homes, paying $600,000 plus for a salary, and then billions of dollars, and it's supposed to end up building 26,000 homes over 5 years, according to the Parliamentary Budget Office. You know what I mean? Like, give those billions of dollars to first-time home buyers as their down payment. Eliminate the whole department, everything. Just give money, and then builders would go crazy. We're going to see, like, builders, construction layoffs are coming. Huge. And it's just bureaucracy, like the Politburo. They create bureaucracy and more people to make 150,000. Like, I mean, the 3 odd offices that Carney added, 3 offices, all over $600,000 salaries, all over 600. One was just for buying equipment for the military. Build Canada Homes. And we can't forget Dr. Noma Meaner there. She's looking in the sky and looking for what to call UFOs, and she's making, what was it, $373,000 a year?
Trying to make sure that we don't discriminate against them if they come.
They don't want to be. But here's Donald Trump's interview with Politico when he calls out the EU leaders.
I'm friendly with all of them. I mean, I like all of them. I have no real enemy. I've had a couple that I didn't like over the years. I actually like the current crew. I like them a lot. But and I know them very well. I know them really well. Some are friends, some are okay. I know the good leaders, I know the bad leaders, I know the smart ones, I know the stupid ones. You got some real stupid ones too. But they're not doing a good job. Europe is not doing a good job in many ways. They're not doing a good job.
I want to ask
They
you
talk
about
too
that.
much, and they're not producing. We're talking about Ukraine. They talk, but they don't produce. I think they're weak, but I also think that they want to be so politically correct. I think they don't know what to do. Europe doesn't know what to do. They don't know what to do on trade either. I mean, I look at a lot of the trade, situation that's going on over there. It's a little bit dangerous, but Europe, they want to be politically correct, and it makes them weak. That's what makes them weak.
So how far would you go to take Maduro out of office?
I don't want to say that, but...
But you want to see him out?
His days are numbered.
That's good. And here's proof.
He also referred to Europe as decaying. That was another thing he said.
I think you and I have referred to Europe as that many times. Here's our friend right now. She loves watching the show. Her and Chrystia Freeland. EU President Ursula von der Leyen announces more immigrants coming to Europe. Just what everybody wants. Let's listen into Ursula.
And therefore, we must open more safe pathways, legal pathways to Europe. We must create more bridges between our continents. We must make sure that people can find a job where their talent is needed, match the skills, bring skills across our borders. And this is at the heart of our new talent partnership, which offer work routes into Europe. So far, 5 countries have signed up to them, and we hope that more of you will follow. This is such an important model to work on. We have just agreed to create a new talent pool.
That's good.
It will match.
That's good enough. You get the idea. More migrants for you. And this is after Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance said, you need to shut the door. You're ruining your countries. And
well, it's not just Rubio. It's Europeans themselves are saying that.
But
that's what's so strange about this. Ursula von der Leyen does not represent
We talked
the
about
European people, any European people. That's why she's not been elected to that position. She's been appointed to it.
Well, perhaps they should
The
hold an
Europeans,
election.
they're not led by people who, it seems to me, even like the European people. They're like a different caste. They're like a completely separate group of humans that don't really have any relationship with the people that they claim to represent. And that's where so much of the tension comes from.
Well, here's a German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. There you go. He said he informed the U.S. president that Germany has implemented new immigration and asylum policies, cutting asylum applications in half, and he plans to update the president on these results. Who's your daddy? Okay, why is he reporting to the Trump, right? Who's your daddy? Isn't that Mark Rutte said that Trump is the daddy to Europe?
Trump said that in that interview with Politico. He said the daddy. He's the daddy.
Well, I mean, Mark Rutte started it when he called him daddy. But
yeah.
But here's Ursula saying take more immigrants, and here's Merz saying, well, no. But they're going to take half. And Urban has said, I'm taking none. Poland has just recently said no thanks. And there's noise from Czech Republic in the same way, right? But here's your friend.
Nobody like France. The French don't want it. That's why they're on the verge of replacing Macron with the Le Pen party. They call it National Rally now. The Germans, he's worried about AfD.
Yeah, the far right.
Well, they get called far right extremists, but I mean, I find that increasingly difficult to believe when it comes to the National Rally in France. I mean, they are more in touch with the majority of the French population, I think, than Macron. So it's does it make sense anymore? Not really. Countries like Sweden, or the Sweden Democrats, are already a big deal over there, and it's happening everywhere.
There's change coming. And we also know that the people like the NDP and the Liberals are the party of yesterday. So we got a few things to get through. We got to be finished at 11 here. So here's Nigel Farage saying this is what he thinks about asylum seekers. Let's play a little clip here.
But if you as a country allow young men who come from countries in which women aren't even classed as second-class citizens, and you put them up in four-star hotels, allow them to work illegally, their attitude towards women is completely different to ours. So the social effects of this are appalling as well.
This is Elon Musk retweeting this because he's on to the EU there. And this is a 15-year-old girl raped by 2 Afghan asylum seekers.
There's a video, very short video, of her being dragged into a park by these 2 boys, men, whatever they are. I can't remember how old they are. I think they're just teenagers. But I mean, I said this to you the other day, didn't I? It is literally every week and pretty much every day that I get a BBC News alert, because I have their app, or Sky News or whatever, some of the British media, that I get an alert saying, oh, another Afghan asylum seeker or whatever it is, somebody from Africa or whatever, accused of rape. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. I really kind of wish that I was exaggerating. It's so frequent that you lose track. So you hear about one in the morning, and then in the afternoon you're reading, and then there's another one, and you don't even realize that it's a different one. You still think it's the first one.
Just like the Liberal scandals and the NDP scandals. Like, there's so many, you can't even keep up. You need a scorecard here. And, the media, the government-funded, corrupted, crippled media, don't do them. Like, we showed you, how many scandals did we talk about here today on the Liberals and the NDP? How many? Which ones of those were on the CBC website? Which ones of those? No, they're talking about painting lines on a hockey rink. It looks like
the defense one was CBC. That's about it, really. Yeah.
The Trump ceasefire that he brokered with Thai and Cambodia, he's going to take that one off his list because they're there's some airstrikes underway as Thai. We're not going to play the clip here just in the interest of time anyway, but there's some clashes at the border there. So
none of the peace deals that he brags about are going to hold. That's the truth, because it involves countries where it's like ethnic hate that goes back centuries in some cases, like Pakistan, India. The heart of that conflict goes back to 1,000 years or something like that, to when the Muslims first came into India. And
we're going to step on the gas, though. Elon Musk yesterday said there's no technological issues left for Tesla. He says you can expect no safety driver in the passenger seat in Austin in 2 to 3 weeks for robotaxi. And I have full self-drive. Been doing it for about over a year and a half now. Love it. And I have 14.3. It's amazing. I use it every day. Elon Musk on whether he would do Doge again or not. We're not going to play the clip out of interest at time. He said that he probably wouldn't have done it. He would just spend more time working on his companies instead of doing stuff that ended up people burning down Teslas. But this is big news. This is absolutely huge. It sounds like they're going to IPO SpaceX, and I think SpaceX is probably the most important company in the world. And it's going to IPO at over $1.5 trillion. And this will be a record-breaking IPO as well. And who owns it right now? Who are the private shareholders of SpaceX, the largest space company in the world? It does, I think, 90% of the space flights. I might have that number wrong by a little bit, but Elon Musk owns 42%. Google Ventures a little bit, Fidelity Investments, some founders funds, and I own a little bit of it through XOVR, which is like that's the only way. You got to get it through private equity, you know what I mean? But there is an ETF trades that has a little bit of SpaceX, so hard to get. It doesn't trade. And this IPO is going to be huge if it goes public here, and I think a lot of people are anxious to get in on this because what they're talking about too is energy coming for space and AI being done in space where there's vast amounts of energy from that thing they call the sun, that big plasma ball in the sky. The big plasma ball. And here, we're going to play this clip here, though, because they asked Elon Musk, she works for him, actually, if he believes in God.
Would you do Doge again, knowing what you know now?
Oh, that's not the right clip, no. Do you have the other clip, or is it the same thing? I'm going to play the right one here.
Who do you look up to the most?
The Creator.
What's your current position on God?
God is the Creator.
You don't believe in God, though, do you?
Well, I believe this universe came from something. People have different labels.
It's funny how, like, he said God, Creator, and she's like, you don't believe in God. We have a godless...
yeah, well, and he kind of said in his answer, not the way that maybe you're thinking. I think that's more of a kind of Stephen Hawking God, if you're familiar with what Stephen Hawking used to say.
Well, we got 2 jokes and we're done. Ready? Because this is off of the maid joke, I guess. A Canadian dentist, this is Babylon Bee poking fun in Canada. Canadian dentist now offering euthanasia as an alternative cavity filling. Why not, eh? And here's one for Canada and the U.S. Man disguises self as illegal so he can get some free health care. That's for the U.S. mostly, right? In Canada, you would have to disguise yourself as illegal so you can get to the front of the line. Oh, and you put Elizabeth May, and we better play this clip here. Let's go. I mean, we got a couple minutes here. Let's play this clip here from Elizabeth May and the squeaky hip.
Democrat MPs swept up in, passed on division. The parts of C9 that I find objectionable.
I got to go back to the beginning, though.
Right at the beginning, yeah.
And I hear the squeak. I think it's time I come clean with the media and all Canadians that the hip replacement I had in 2007 involved a defective part. So believe it or not, I may be the squeaky wheel in Parliament.
That's good.
But
That's good. That's funny enough right there. So she literally...
And she goes on the health system, which is the amazing part of that. Even though it screwed up her operation. She's like, I'm so lucky to live in a country where we have our healthcare.
Well, I'll just tell her if she just calls up, I think it was, what's his name? The red-green guy. Gets some duct tape, drills a hole, shoots some WD-40 in there, and she'll be fine. She'll be fine.
It's terrible, though. I mean, just on the human level, that's terrible. Can you imagine walking around like that? A really, really audible, very loud squeak.
She's not sneaking up on anybody, that's for sure.
No, they all know when she's coming. She must always be like, "Where is everybody?" It's just because they've all hidden.
She reminds me of the character in Cheers, Norm, because I'm sure she frequents a establishment every day, and they can hear her coming down the stairs. Lizzie.
Yeah.
Lizzie's home. All right, that's our show for today. Please like, share, subscribe, make comments, tell us where you're from, everything you can. Please help us get this out. We are the best undiscovered news commentary show in Canada, and we just got to get it out to more people, and we rely on you for that. And if you like what we do, please help us get it out there. Help us take some of that budget away from the CBC, $1.5 billion, $1.55 billion actually. And look what they put out there today. Just go take a look. No, don't go take a look. You can see it on, we pull up their website every show. And what do we see on there? Today, instead of all the scandals that we pointed out, talking about painting lines on hockey rinks. There you go.
Just the big stuff.
Just the stuff that's important, right? Anyway, Canadians can't afford to put food on the table, but hey, hockey lines are important. Anyway, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. And Joe's telling me to update the laptop and the mic drivers. We're going to try that today. We're going to do that. God bless you as well. God bless, or the Creator blesses you. And we're back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Cheers. Thanks for watching Now Media.
Support the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.